Hey everyone, welcome to Anime While Black Podcast. I'm your host, Regina Moretto. I'm here with my really good friend, Adam Ilara. He is a multidisciplinary artist. He's a comic book illustrator, a musician, literally a multifaceted, talented jack of all trades. And we are going to talk to you today, just hanging out, Zooming, social distancing, and talking about anime. So say hi, Adam.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on, Regina. It's quite an honor to be the first guest on your podcast.
I am excited about this because just in planning it, I was like, this has been really interesting to create a space to just talk about anime with my friends. So I'm excited about this. I really want to see how many people are secretly closet anime fans. Too, like it's starting to, people are coming out the closet now. More and more people are like, oh yeah, anime, that's cool. I'm like, how long have you been watching anime? Not as a gatekeeper, just like conversationalist. Like,
yeah, definitely. I think especially with like, I think even with like people of color kind of thing, where it's like shamed to like watch anime. But now all these rappers are like referencing like Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh, and like all these different types of things. People are like, oh yeah, I've always liked anime. Like,
for real. I mean, honestly, because like for me, anime, I don't know like how I just like evolved into it, but like growing up when I was a kid, like I watched Kung Fu Matinee, and I know Kung Fu and anime are not the same thing, but it's like that transition from like watching those like legendary fairy tales and watching Bruce Lee and all of these different things. When you see the transition and start seeing these animated series, it was kind of like, oh, like in the same alignment of nerddom, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And they inform each other too.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they have some parallel similarities in a way of expressing a culture. And I feel like a lot of young Black kids identified with that. And I think other people of color just as Americans. But yeah, like, I feel like there's so many ways that, you know, anime and that like the just culture of nerddom has kind of been like you said, shunned. I feel like when I was younger, other people were like, oh, you watch that? Oh, that's weird. Or it either is attributed to being weird or being white. And
yes.
It's just like, yeah, like
all, white people didn't even make this.
Yeah, that's so funny because that's something that like when I want to talk, like literally come back to that when we talk about cosplay, because I follow a lot of Black girls who cosplay, and I get so upset hearing their stories about how people are like, oh no, you can't do that. That character's not Black, and it's like that character's not white either. It's Japanese culture that creates anime. So how does white become the default? Yeah, like nothing, no shade against white people. It's just like, how does that become the default for like everything?
Yeah, how do you claim some? I mean, like I was about to say, how do you claim something that's not yours? But given history, I just
yeah, you can go there.
I didn't want to go there that early, but
like we don't have to. Like we can take the kid gloves off. Like we're here to talk about that. Like it's literally like. I think about that sometimes too, like when they did Ghost in the Shell, and I was like,
Scarlett Johansson, it's like, Scarlett Johansson is like the acting industry's like, you know how she can be any race, right? Quote unquote. Also, like on the other end, Drake kind of does a similar thing where like every year
he loves appropriating.
I think he's in his Arab phase right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a smorgasbord of like, I like all the cultures, all of them. I'm like, okay. Man. Like, but with respect to, like, you can appreciate a culture without being insensitive to it and being like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I'm always trying to understand, like, what exactly is like cultural appropriation and when is it like cultural appreciation?
Yeah.
Like I have this one Chinese outfit from Hong Kong that I wear, and some people have said that's cultural appropriation. I'm like, yeah, but I got this like from there.
Yeah.
I wore it there, and other people that live there wear that, and I don't feel like I'm not out here wearing a costume. I'm wearing something that other people wear.
Yeah.
And when I was in Japan, I tried to do everything that like they would do. I went to the baths and experienced the culture. I wasn't parodying it. I mean, some stuff in my vlog while I was there, I was kind of making fun of, but like that's just me. I wasn't trying to. Have you been to like a Shinto temple at all?
Yes.
So they do this thing where like they have like this communal thing of water and a lot of superstitious stuff. So I was poking fun at that, but I mean, yeah.
I feel like at the same time, there's a way that you can poke fun with respect to like, I'm acknowledging this, but I'm not saying, oh, look at this, like you're weird. I'm just saying like, I'm doing this, like more like laughing at yourself participating in a particular act. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
That's what I think. I feel like when it comes to crossing the line between appropriation and appreciation, it's like, okay, so you went to Hong Kong and you bought this piece of garment that they're selling for commercial purposes for people to buy. And I feel like you said, it's when you become costumey that it's appropriation. And like, for example, things like when you go to Party City and there's like Afro wigs and Cinco de Mayo stuff, that's appropriation. Like you're making people's tradition a costume. You're not embracing it and saying, oh wow, this is a really, really cool piece of clothing and I want to wear it with respect to the culture because I like the aesthetic of it. You're just like taking it for like, I don't know how to like really convey in words, but when you see it, you can see appropriation and be like, that's what they're doing versus, oh, this is somebody who is wearing this because they like this.
Yeah.
You can tell the vibes. Like you can just tell if it's like, I'm playing dress up because today I want to be Mexican versus like, no, this is really cool. And I bought this when I was on a day trip to Mexico and I'm not wearing it around being stupid. It's like, this is whatever, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I have one of my good friends in Dallas. He's like a photographer, and I gifted him like this shalwar kameez from Pakistan. And he's like, is it cool if I wear this? I'm like, dude, first of all, you told me it was cool and I just gave it to you. Like, I would be mad if you didn't wear this. Otherwise, I could just wear this instead.
To it, it's like, appreciation is when you've been invited into that space or you're coming into it with acknowledgement versus appropriation of him being like, making fun of it. It's definitely the intent. Like, I feel like, sometimes people try to pretend like ignorance, like feign ignorance, like, oh, I didn't know any better. I didn't know that would offend someone. And it's like, you know, when you did it, you had the intent to offend. And like, that's where it comes from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I forgot where we started on this tangent, but
we were talking because it's related to anime. It's like we talked about Scarlett Johansson and how how the industry is so willing to dress her up as everyone, and like Hollywood has a history of doing that to people and like to people of color, like marginalizing them and saying you can't play this role, but I can find somebody white to play you.
It's like, okay, so in a history of like recent anime or even video game adaptions, look, Dragon Ball Evolution was a god-awful film. The casting was bad, but like to make Goku a white guy was like sin number one.
Yeah.
Especially that the rest of that cast was Asian.
Yes. Even like Avatar. Like I remember the like outrage when people were getting ready to make Avatar, like the Airbender version.
Right.
People were like, you better not do what you're planning to do, M. Night Shyamalan. And then when they saw the cast come out, people were like, we're going to boycott it. And I remember feeling like you took something so awesome and said, literally whitewash it. Like all the extras are Asian and people of color, but the main cast that you it's centering whiteness. And it's like, we're not really on a tangent. We're talking about it. We're dissecting it. Because it's like, how do you do that creatively, especially for him being a person of color? It's like,
I'm like, M. Night, come on, you a brown dude, what are you doing,
dude? Like,
you're gonna throw your own people under the bus.
To like,
he made the brown guys the Fire Nation.
He was like, Fire Nation, brown people, Indians, you are the villains. I'm like, is that how
Come on, M. Night.
Is that who put you up to this?
Yeah. And same thing with like, what was that? The Prince of Persia is played by Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
You're telling me in Hollywood, where LA is the largest population of Iranian people outside of Iran, you could not find one Iranian guy? Come on, man. Come on.
Shade to LA, but you can throw a stick and hit a Persian person like easily. Like,
yes.
When I first got off the plane to go out to LA to start styling, my Uber driver, he was Persian, and like we had a whole conversation about that, and he was just like, you know, showing me the areas, and he's like, oh yeah, and this is like little Iranian and blah blah blah, and I was like, this is really cool. Like, I like that. I like seeing how people, when they come here and they bring their culture and having these little centers, it's like, I'm showing my age. Houston used to have this place called People Places when I was a kid, and you'd go on a field trip there and you were exposed to all these different cultures, and you would have people from these different places dressed in their traditional garments, and like you'd sample the food. And I was like, this is a very good way to expose children in a setting where it's like, ask questions, become familiar. It takes away the otherness, because I feel like that's what alienates people and forces them into assimilation from their culture, is making you feel more foreign when you already know you're foreign in another place. Mm-hmm. And you feel like to adapt, you have to leave behind your culture to be and embrace whatever. And I feel like it made it normalized. And I think that's where we're coming to right now too, as a like country, is like, we are forcing America to come to terms with, everyone is who they are, and you're not going to push us away from it. Like, everybody's embracing culture more, like grabbing it and saying, here, look at what this is. Like, I have no connection with it, but now I decided it's mine and I'm putting it in your face.
Exactly. And I mean, America is not a homogenous society. I mean, like, I've been to homogenous places like Japan, Saudi Arabia, and even, well, Saudi Arabia is kind of like people from all over the world, but like the culture there is very like Saudi, right?
Yeah.
But like America has all these different types of people, and the history of like trying to force assimilation is like a ugly past. Like, if you look at the Native American kind of like Christianization and Westernization stuff, is like horrific. So it's like, obviously there's something to be said about like, all right, cool, we all can agree we do not want Sharia law in the United States. Muslims don't even really want that, to be honest. Like, especially the ones that fled those countries to come here to escape that. So this hysteria of like, well, if you're going to be here, you have to do this. Like, who made this rule? Where did this rule come from?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's unfortunate, because if you just take the time to appreciate these things about other people, you can, you know, learn. And if you weren't so hostile, like, you can wear the dashiki. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you weren't...
It's cool. It's funny looking, but it's like, it's cool because it's like, it's like, where are you coming from with it? But the funny thing is, and then we'll come back to anime, when you see people that are wearing dashikis that are not Black, it's like, why?
Yeah.
And it's not like they're just wearing it because it's like cool fashion. It's like usually a kind of Rachel Dolezal person who's like, I know more about Blackness than you. And it's like, they come off a certain way, and it just like makes me kind of laugh, versus I'm cool with seeing other people with it. Like, now that pattern and like the kente cloth and stuff has become fashion and prints, and people are wearing shorts and everything made from it. But like, that video you sent me, White is King. And they literally had these two kids in the dashikis, and I'm just like, like, you went there, like you went all the way there. You're singing Spirit, and it's like
fully white choir,
child of color. Not, I mean, like, even when I showed it to my children, my middle daughter was like, they didn't even have like any kids, like no Asian, no Hispanic, no Black, just all white kids. And then it was like, she was like, not even a mixed kid, like at least have a sprinkle of color in there to like make this less comical than the fact that you took something that was blackety black and said, erase all of it. Let's start all over. Make it white. That's going to be my like new hashtag for everything. Make it white.
Credit to them for not getting a token, right? I mean, like, they went all the way. They were like, fuck it, we're doing it live.
Yeah, the dedication to that. I'm like, at first when I saw it, I was like, this has to be Kids Bop. This is a very Kids Bop moment. Like, I would be okay if it was Kids Bop. I'd be like,
yeah.
You know what? Kids Bop.
Did you see the other one I posted from the U.S. Navy?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. I was like, that. Now, me being in the military, I'm like, seems about white. Like, literally, that's what it would be. Like, the Navy choir.
They had one Asian lady, to their credit. Yeah. They had
and
one.
She looked squeamish about it. She's like, is this what we're going to do?
Like, this is wrong, but gotta sing it.
She was just ashamed to be there. She's like, I was ordered to be here. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. I think it looks like going forward, some studios are starting to be more cognizant of like casting, because like I've seen all the details come out from the Cowboy Bebop adaptation.
Yeah.
John Cho's playing Spike. The director's been making very deliberate choices. And it's like, it's not like they're just getting Asians to just be Asians. It's like, oh no, this dude could very well play Spike really well. Like it's not just like who do we got? Like you're an Asian, get over here. Like it's not like that. It's like, oh no, these are comedic actors playing comedic roles. Like these are serious Asian actors. You know what I mean? Like they've always been there.
Yeah, putting the right people in the space. And I feel like, now here's my argument against John Cho. I don't feel like, I love Cowboy Bebop, and so I'm glad you mentioned this. I don't feel John Cho would be a good Spike, just because I feel like he's so straight-laced, and I feel like Spike is like kind of an edgy, cool character. The whole soundtrack and the flow of the anime is like very jazz. Like I'm looking for someone, this is going to sound ageist, younger than John Cho. Because
he still looks really young.
He does. He's still, I mean, of course. Yeah. But he's like 45 or something like that. When I looked up his age, I was like, whoa. And for me, and the things that he's in, I guess maybe because he's been doing the whole serious actor bit for a little while, but I feel like we might need to give a young unknown. Yeah. Because that's another thing that Hollywood does, is they want to have someone who can carry the film based on
sell tickets,
people being familiar with him. Yeah. And it's like, is he the best person for it? Like, and then kind of for me, which I would love to be in casting, there's some I want someone a little bit taller and like, just like, have you ever watched like the Try Guys and like these
yes,
but okay, so like
that guy is really cool.
Dean would be a good Spike to me. Like I feel like he would definitely bring the audience of like a younger crowd too, because people recognize him. And like shallow, but the attractiveness level is like,
he's a pretty guy.
Cute. Yeah, he's pretty. People are used to seeing him. He's more connected with this generation versus like John is kind of like on the seriouser side. Like it's like he could do it, but I don't know if. But then like Eugene's not an actor; he's a influencer and personality. But I feel
so it might be
it's like the toss-up.
There's a show that I saw with John Cho, it was like an Exorcist show, and I got to see like a side of him I haven't seen before, and that's why I was like, oh yeah, then I'm confident he has like the range.
Yeah,
because I've seen him be really, really wacky, almost to like a caricature.
Yeah, I've seen him funny.
And then I've seen him being like funny where he's not the comedy, but it's him reacting to the comedy around him. And then seeing him in like a horror genre, I was like, he can probably do this role, but I wish they had gotten him 15 years ago.
Exactly. That's what I agree. That's when they should have got him, was like at that time, because it's like, okay, like then it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Cause like that delivery of that type of dry humor, the sarcasm, the cynicism, you would expect that from like a younger person to play like him 15 years ago, as opposed to now. It may come off as, you know, forced. That kind of malaise from being, I'm old now and I'm just disappointed with everything in life versus like you. I'm just critical of everything because I'm young and I'm cynical and I'm not with the shits, you know, like
See, this is why we need representation, because the world has been robbed of like me being a child actor.
We did them a disservice.
I know. Looking at the years go by, I'm like, they fucked up. They're gonna lose me in my prime. They're gonna get me. I'm gonna have like that Steve Carell story where like I'm in my like 40s when I first hit it off. And I'm like, you guys could have had me at the teens. And then thinking about not just me, then think about how many other minorities like actors that are still trying to grind and are not getting those shots. And seeing those roles going to established white actors, I'm like, I could have fucking done that. Like, what the hell?
You know, and this is like still on that same alignment. Okay, so did you ever watch The Witcher on Netflix?
Yeah, I did. I saw like not the whole series, but I saw a couple of episodes.
Okay, so what I liked when I watched the whole series, again, nerd, but I really, really liked how diverse the casting was and how they made it like these people can exist in this space. And it's not about this was a role meant for a person of color. It's about all of these people exist. Why wouldn't in a universe, a magical universe, would there not be people of different colors, different, like I love that. And people had very developed characters, like very well-rounded characters. And that's a thing for me too. And I'm sure for you as a person of color, like growing up and watching fantasy and sci-fi and not seeing people that look like us, like, especially when it comes to futuristic sci-fi, it's like, so people of color not going to exist? Like, what the fuck? Where are we?
The whites won in the future. Like
only
they figured it out. The racist won.
We're going to go into the future and there's going to be even less people of color. Like,
I don't know.
What happened? Like, space, the final frontier, and it's like there's gonna be aliens of color but not people, earthlings, not Terrans of color.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we'll have Zoe Saldana play an alien, but she can't be like the human lead, right? So
me and another friend of mine that I'm going to do a podcast with, and it'll be fun for us to all connect together. We were literally talking about that just the other day for our segment, because we're going to talk about the tragic casting of Storm, and like just like the importance of what Storm means to dark-skinned women, to black girls, little black girls. I mean, she was like iconic for me as a child, like seeing a superhero that looks like me. But it's funny because when we talk about Zoe Saldana, and it's like as Gamora, amazing. In the Avatar with the little blue people, amazing performances. But then in her other films as just a woman of color, it's very, very flat. Like, it's just like, here's your chance and you're giving us the most Wonder Bread version of a character when it really needs to be, you know, something that is inspiring, or a person. Like, did you ever see the movie Columbia?
No, I didn't. I haven't seen that.
So the movie, it's like she's like this mercenary child. She starts off as a child mercenary Colombian character. Like, her dad groomed her from a child to be this like killer assassin. It's amazing. I like the movie. I feel like it still was great, but I found myself in Act 1 and Act 2 being more interested in the little girl who played her
than the grown-up version.
Her as Zoe Saldana. And the little girl, like, I'm gonna have to send it to you, like, from YouTube. This little girl is like fucking parkouring off buildings. Found out she did all her own stunts. She couldn't have been more than 11. Kid was fucking crazy. So when you see the trailer and you see this kid, like, it's like not a black version of The Professional, because it's not that. I mean, I love Professional. I love empowered female characters. But when you see it, you're like, fuck that. Like, swimming with sharks and
I gotta see this.
Bananas. It was bananas. And then you get to watch it and you're like watching this little girl and how she becomes this person. And it's like, wow. And then you get to Zoe's part and it's like, what happened to that little girl? Like, you would think she'd become more awesome. And it's like, It's so very anticlimactic.
So what's the beef with Storm then? Because I think Halle Berry is a very, very good actress, and I've loved her in like almost everything. The reason why I thought it was a disservice in X-Men was because they didn't really give her shit to do in those movies.
So that was very much like, I hated that because
they underpowered her.
Yeah, they underpowered her. They minimized her. And it's like, you know, a lot of people focus on Jean Grey, but like Storm is considered an Omega mutant. Like very, very powerful and very, very dangerous. And it's like Jean is not an Omega mutant now. Phoenix is, but Jean Grey is not.
Right.
And then they had Halle Berry. I feel like to bring up why it's disappointing, Catwoman. She sucked as Catwoman.
That movie sucked.
The movie sucked.
Yeah.
But she sucked in it as well.
Yeah, she did. She won an award for how bad it was. Yeah. The Raspberry Award. Right.
Yeah. And it's like, it was terrible. And I felt like she ruined the Catwoman character too, because for me, Catwoman is Eartha Kitt. Like, and a lot of people don't know that before Eartha Kitt was Catwoman, there was another woman, a white woman, that was in the Batman series with Adam West and everyone, like, that was Catwoman. And then once it became Eartha Kitt, she was the pinnacle Catwoman. Like, she created the character and the embodiment.
When was Eartha Kitt Catwoman?
Oh, yeah, in the 60s.
With the Adam West show?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, I only saw the Michelle Pfeiffer one, and that was like Bae for me a long time. That might have been one of my childhood boners. But like,
childhood boners.
I mean, like, and then I saw an animated, man, I think it might have been like an animated film where Catwoman was a black woman, and I'm like, this is fine. Like, it didn't change the character. But once I saw that movie, I was like, actually, it has nothing to do with her being black. This is not Selena Kyle. This is not in the Batman's world. Who the fuck is this? This is trash.
It's literally trash. And I was like, the way she was like climbing on buildings and stuff, I was like, here we go again, like hypersexualizing black women in the wrong way. Like, we can be sexy, but it was just like, it was cringy. It was fucking cringy.
And Catwoman is already a sexy character.
Yes.
She uses her femme fatale to get what she wants.
Thank you. Femme fatale. It's definitely, and so we talked about it as women, how her sexiness and how she uses, it's in alignment. She uses her mind and her body. And she does that a lot. Like, she plays mind games. She's very clever. She's like a cat. It's like smart, but fierce. Like, this is why I'm afraid, but love cats. It's like, you have to earn their love. A cat will, like, one day it's all snuggly and the next day it scratched the fuck out of you. And oh, I thought you loved me. Like, no, not today, human. But with like Halle Berry, I was disappointed with her in Catwoman. Like, the movie was terrible. I was disappointed in her acting in that. And then shifting to when she became Storm, yeah, the writing was terrible, but she still could have been like, fuck this, I'm going to give it something. And she gave it nothing. It was like nothing. She literally, all of the movies, it progressed from, they wrote me in as a very demonized character to, I don't even want to be here.
Right.
And I feel like that's not fair. Even in the newer versions of the X-Men, the Marvel series, when they wrote in the younger Storm, I was like, come on, somebody. Again, when they gave us Mohawk Storm, like, the girl was just still like, just.
She didn't give a shit. Yeah.
And
she's good in other stuff.
Yeah. And then you have do I want to bring this up? She had a very bad Twitter situation that she did a couple of years ago. And I don't know if we may edit this out like later before.
Damn, there must be some spicy tea then.
It was spicy because like literally I was like, okay, like our first introduction to her, okay, cool. But like what she was saying on Twitter, she's biracial. And so she was like, white moms are the best, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, sis, like, you don't have to say that. Just say I love your mom and go. Like, I love my mom and go, not white moms are the best. And then she said some other like anti-black things, and like black Twitter, especially black Twitter Storm stans, was like, you do not deserve to be her anymore. Made a whole big deal, and Marvel pulled her contract. Like, was like, yoink, we're gonna find somebody new.
You know who would be great as Storm now?
Who?
There's this one martial artist I follow on Instagram. Her name is Summer Ryder.
Yes.
Storm.
I love her too. Yeah.
Storm. She can do the stunts. She's done acting stuff.
Yeah.
She's got like
range, I feel.
She's got range. And she's really pretty too. And you know, like, I think it's that. Did you watch the 90s X-Men cartoon?
Of course. Of
I
course.
loved her character in that show. So when they like put it into the Fox version of X-Men, I was like,
Mhm.
yo, you nerfed this character so hard.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm
Yeah.
like, it's just so funny because it's like Halle Berry did not do her justice. I feel like, yes, the Samurai Rider, I think she would give something to the character. I feel like that's what Storm deserves because she's a very passionate person. She's had these life experiences, this trauma that makes, and then she controls the fucking elements. And it's
Yeah.
also an emotional connection to these things. Like she
Mhm.
feels her powers very deeply. And then like you just have Halle Berry up there like, Storm, mistress of the
Yeah.
Heavens, blah, blah, blah. It's like, can you speak up? I can't hear you. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's why it was just tragic. And then even with Zoe, I feel like she's great as aliens. And it's just like when you're asking, I mean, for me as a Black woman, when I'm asking to see a Black character in their be present in as a person of color, it's like that's when they take a step back, like, oh no. And I feel
Mm.
like from me having just worked with a lot of different people in the industry, I feel like sometimes people feel like especially like when we were talking about Zendaya, they feel like their Blackness should not have to be present in the role. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. But in some cases, it's part of, especially when it's part of the character and the part of the character's dynamic, it's like, why are you being less than? And I feel like as a Black woman in just socialization, we are taught to be less than and to like make ourselves smaller or be less passionate in a
Mm.
lot of different circumstances. Like we're socialized, like if you're too passionate about things and you're being aggressive, you're being angry, you're being assertive in a way that is not accepted. But then in superhero comic books and stuff like that, when you see those same traits in non-Black women, especially like white women, like when you look at Katniss Everdeen and all, it's just like, wow, they're passionate, they're strong, blah, blah, blah. Like it's allowed to be present to have these emotions versus a lot of times Black women have to repress their emotions. And it's just like,
Right.
it's tragic. It's
Yeah.
literally tragic. So
Yeah.
there's
I get.
that.
Hmm.
But I like seeing good Black anime characters, especially Black female anime characters, where they're very present in their being, like being strong or being assertive or being all these different dynamics. There's also tragic Black female characters too. I'm watching Promised Neverland,
Mm.
and it's really good. I think you might like it. It's you can find it on Hulu. Yeah, it's on Hulu.
I've seen an ad for
And
it before. Yeah.
yeah, it's got these little orphans that, without being a spoiler, there's these special orphans. It's a very I guess you could say a horror anime, which I'm kind of like newly getting into. So it sucks when bad things happen to kids. Like it, it sucks. And in this anime, they go there, and it's just like, ugh.
I just started Full Metal Alchemist of Brotherhood,
Yes,
and I
yes, yes.
hadn't seen the original Full Metal. So when the main character like loses his arms and his legs
Yeah,
and his brother's body evaporates, like, oh fuck, like
yeah. And you're just like, and it's so, oh, there's more. There's more that happens. There's an episode where something really tragic happens to a little girl, and you're just
oh
gonna,
man.
that's fucked up. That is fucked up.
So
Uh,
what do you think of Full Metal? Is it worth watching to the end or?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's definitely in the top 12 pinnacle of good anime to watch. Yeah,
Okay. What
yeah.
was the first anime you watched?
The first anime I watched was Fist. I want to say Fist of the North Star.
Oh,
I fucking love it too.
it's so ridiculous.
Yes, yes, yes. It is so ridiculous. It's so misogynist. It's so. But remember, I grew up on Kung Fu Matinee too, so
Yeah.
I'm watching it, and it's like
Touches a dude, explodes. Like, it's so insane.
I'm so fucking. I have an older brother, so like
Okay.
when I was little, I idolized my older brother. So anything that he liked, I like. That's how I like Marvel. Like my
Mm.
older brother was a expansive comic book collector. I'm talking Spider-Man 1, like everything. The EXO. I read all of these comics as a kid before we got the 90s cartoon. And then when the 90s cartoon came out, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Like, and then watching the evolution of the Marvel universe coming to light, I'm like, it just, all these stages just makes my geek come out. I'm just like, yes, more.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But Fist of the North Star, definitely Ninja Scroll, Sailor Moon.
Okay.
All of the like early old anime was like my stuff, like for real. But yeah, those two, Fist of the North Star and Ninja Scroll.
Okay. I think
What were yours?
I think my very first one was probably the Toonami like lineup.
Yeah.
The I had Dragon Ball Z, Rurouni Kenshin, Tenshin Yo.
Yeah.
I think even Yu Yu Hakusho for a
I
while.
was gonna ask you about that. Yeah.
And I tried watching Sailor Moon. That was more for my little sister. But I don't. Okay, so another one that was like one of my very first ones was the Pokemon one, and I hated it. Fucking hated it.
I mean, because some people don't really feel it's an anime. They feel like it's just an animated cartoon series versus a true anime.
I mean, it's an anime. It's made in Japan. It's, you know, it's its thing.
But like when you look at the formatting of anime, like for example, like when you look at like Tenchi Muyo and like Yu Yu Hakusho and all of that, there's like a clear protagonist, so Ash. But then as far as like his character arc and development, he never changes. He never arcs. He
literally never changes, and neither do his Pokemon evolve. That's how bad of a trainer he is. He's fucking
like, I'm gonna kill everybody with the same squad I started with. Fuck you.
Yeah. This is my level 5 Caterpie, and it's not changing for shit. My Pikachu never becoming a Raichu.
Oh my God. Yeah. It is just like, and then what kills me too is the audacity of Pikachu to beat a Raichu. And it's just like, how does this happen? Like, is
Ash, you didn't think to throw in a ground Pokemon in that fight? No, I'm going to have my Pikachu Thundershock the Raichu.
Today.
See, the reason why I have such a problem with it is because I loved yellow version on the Game Boy Color, gold version, and like the games were so immersive in the whole world. And they didn't explain everything. Like in the game, you have no idea who the fuck Mew is, who created Mewtwo. That's like in-game mysteries that never get explained. Like the unknown, you don't know what the fuck it is. They don't tell you. They're just like, oh yeah, they just exist in this universe. I'm like, this is cool. But in the movies, they shoehorn this like stupid story. I'm just like, like.
It's like, I'd rather you not.
Yeah, I'd rather you just, the show didn't exist. I really love the games though. I'm playing Heart Gold right now on the DS. Yeah, it's a fun game.
There used to be this like Pokemon Stadium
on the N64.
Pokemon Stadium.
That's a good game.
About those days. Yeah. What other games are you playing right now?
Tomb Raider, Rise of Tomb Raider. Streaming that on Twitch right now. I just finished The Last of Us 2, which was an amazing game.
Yeah, I was watching some of that gameplay. Like, I have to. I'm literally so inspired to like go get the game because I need it.
It's worth it. It's a cinematic experience. I mean, you saw some of the gameplay.
Yes.
I fucked up really badly on my stream. So you know how like when you're streaming on Twitch, like a lot of it, we have to talk during the stuff. Right. So a lot of when my friend Caspia would be on the stream with me, we'd be talking to each other about the game. And like an important detail happened in one of the cutscenes where one of the characters was revealed to be a trans character. And so I missed that completely. And for the rest of the gameplay, I'm like, is this a dude or is this a girl? And I'm like, I can't tell. And I'm saying all the stupid shit. And and then like come find out later, it's like that was the trans character. I'm like, oh.
And so you just seemed and probably sounded insensitive as fuck to everybody else, to trans gamers, Adam.
Yep. I felt so bad. Yeah, and because like they kept referring to the character as like Lev and then Lily, and I'm like, why do they keep going back and forth on this thing? And because I missed it during the cutscene.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So please forgive me, guys. I really didn't know. I was just curious because of like the shaved head, 1, 2.
Mm.
It was a very like what do you call it when somebody doesn't look like either gender again?
Non-binary.
Not just non-binary, but also there's like an ambiguous term.
Androgynous.
Yes, it was a very androgynous character.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was no physical features that would kind of, I'm just like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So that's what happened during my gameplay with that game. The lesbian sex scenes were interesting. The straight sex scene was like the one I really did not want to see, because it was this character that I fucking hate her.
The sex scenes in this game is just like, well, I mean, it's cinematic. You're watching a movie and it moves the plot along.
Yep. Yeah. They force you to play as a character that I really didn't like for half of this game, so I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was a good game. What games are you playing right now?
I am lame, and I am playing Animal Crossing because I need to mentally escape this apocalypse we're in. So that's my mental escape, is like just going there to this little world where you can build all the little things you want. You create the island, you terraform, you fish, you catch bugs. It's basic AF. I mean, like, but I love games like that, like Harvest Moon, and like I love it. Like, that's my zhuzh.
Did you ever play a game called Dark Cloud?
That sounds familiar.
It's also a terraforming type of thing.
Yeah, I probably did. I played so many different games. Like, I still play a lot of games. I'm the adult that's like, when a little kid is like, thanks, Siri. I'm the person who, when a little kid is like, can I play games on your phone? I'm like, I have 100 games, but I'm playing all of them, and I don't want you to mess up the level I'm at. So sorry, child, small person. No. Get your own phone.
Yeah, that's funny. It's like, my save file, it's a whole thing. I don't want you to.
Like, I've made progress here in Mario, and I don't want to.
It took me a long time to level this guy up, so probably best if you just,
That's definitely me. Little kids are like, but you have all these games. Yeah, ask your mom. Download a game on her phone.
And I bought those games. Yes, that's why I have them. You should get your own fucking money, kid.
These are not games for kids.
See, so that's something, because you have kids, and I always go back and forth with people about this, because I don't really think censoring certain types of media for kids really does anything beneficial, honestly.
They can do it anyway. So
yeah,
it's better to, for me, I mean, I don't overexpose my kids to things, but I allow them to explore things that they're curious about. And then with the premise of, I, as a parent, am here to guide you. And so if you have questions, I'd rather you ask me than the internet and weird people out there that, like, so they've always had open conversation with me about everything. So as far as like TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that, like all of my kids, they don't all have accounts, but my oldest, she has, of course, an Instagram, and my middle has an Instagram that she literally could care less about social media. She kind of more lurks versus my oldest is active. And they'll come to me with things and be like, well, what is this about? Or just asking questions, or they know kind of sometimes when something gets weird for them, they're like, I didn't like this, so I turned it off. So I've never been the person that's like, oh, you can't look at this, or because when you do that, it tends to, like, if they are not able to talk to an adult about it and feel shamed about it, then you're forcing them to make bad decisions for themselves. Because like, I grew up, my parents were super strict. Like, I couldn't even watch The Simpsons, so I had to sneak and watch it at my older brother's house.
Same. Why was Simpsons banned in the house?
Because it was a child cussing. Like, so my parents are like, no, like, absolutely not. I couldn't watch, like, In Living Color, and so it, like, that was like a comedy sketch show back in the
it's legendary.
Yes. And so when I get to school the next day, all the kids were talking about it, especially like there was this one character, Homie the Clown. And it was like, I could hear my dad in the living room watching it and laughing. And I'm like, why?
Why can't I join you?
Yes, I want to ha ha ha.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me and my kids, like I watch a lot of things with them just so I can know what it is. Like if they're going to watch it, I watch it with them so that if it's something I'm like, sometimes I'm watching something, oh shit, you can't watch that. Like, turn that off. No. But like usually when we watch it, we have a dialogue about it. Like, it's like, what do you think about that? You know, and they're like, oh, well, I think this. And I'm kind of indifferent to things too. Like when my kids are asking about things, I take a nonchalant approach to it and a non-biased approach so that they don't feel like I'm not going to say I'm just like very, I don't know how to explain how I am, but it's just like I think I'm very mature and I see things a lot different from the way most humans see things.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm better than anybody. It's just I'm very I'm just aware of shit and I'm just like, okay, like I feel like it's very weird for us to marginalize people on so many things. And there's so many ways we exclude and discriminate against people, like discriminate based on gender, sexuality, religion. And it comes from a lot of ignorance. People usually, it's like, oh, you know, like when people, I had a person, like a family member talking to me about letting my kids watch Steven Universe. And so they're like, that's a lesbian show. And I was like,
okay, so like, what?
I watched it and I was like, I thought it was very cool. I was like, they've got these magical characters and, you know, especially because they're from outer space and they just happen to manifest themselves as feminine characters and, you know, whatever. But literally the premise is that they're magical crystal creatures or gemstones that don't have a gender. So why are you trying to make this a whole big thing? And then like, it definitely, I'm a big believer of love is love. So like, I don't feel that people have to conform to like a binary. And so whatever works for them. And it's like, at the same time, I'm like, it's a fucking cartoon.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a fucking cartoon. And you're trying to put so much into little kids about, people are so afraid that everything makes them gay. And it's like, if you want kids, it's going to make your kid gay. And I'm like, how? Like, please explain how watching a cartoon is going to make the kid be like, you know what? Like, you know, let me not talk the way I normally talk. But it's not going to make someone go from, I was straight at 8 years old, and then I saw this cartoon, and then I decided I wanted to have gay sex.
That's such a symptom of like this weird thing where people think things turn people gay. Like so much of my life was that. So like, I started wearing skinny jeans. Like, if you start wearing, you know, like, that's gay. I'm like, well, I just put these jeans on. I haven't gotten the urge to suck a dick yet. We'll see.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, watching this cartoon suddenly gave this child an urge to start sucking dick. Like, I don't get it.
Wearing makeup as a guy. People are like, that'll make you gay. And watching anime is gay. I got that so many fucking times.
How?
And I'm like, the only thing anime really wanted me to act out in real life was the fusion dance from Dragon Ball Z with my friend just to see if it would work. That was the extent of how far that went in real life.
So like, touching tips.
Yeah, because one of my best friends in like elementary school, he was just as obsessed with Dragon Ball Z as me, and he's Egyptian, so we both got made fun of for liking it. And he was the same height, same build, so we're like, perfect.
Yeah,
prime candidates for this fusion dance. And we were in this huge like plant lot, like it was like this where a house was supposed to be built on, and we would just practice in the hot summer sun doing the fusion dance over and over and over again. And we're like, dude, this doesn't work. I'm like, yeah. We're still Saiyans, though.
I feel like that's what, like, we take away kids' innocence when we start putting all of our adult fears onto them. It's like, let kids be kids. Because honestly, like, I remember my childhood, and I feel like kids don't have a gender really until probably puberty. Like, I feel like you're just running around, and all kids, they want to run around with no shirts on and be little and just be
naked,
summertime, be naked and free. And it's like, let them be kids. I'm not saying my kids do that, but like, I mean, they did up until they reached a certain point where it's like, you gotta put a shirt on. And it's like, why? Well, because people are gonna look at you weird, and I don't know how to. And they like, literally, my kids are just like, I don't like that, you know, like. Yeah. But I feel like I feel like cartoon and animation, and why I like it so much is because there's so much, it's like you create these worlds where everything kind of exists. And like you see too in anime, I like that there's very much the presence of 5 genders, because like I'm researching when I was in college, I took an anthropology class because I need an elective, and my weird ass always picks like hard classes for my electives. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna take art. I'm like, hey, anthropology, let's learn about the world. And learning that pretty much almost every civilization before being introduced to westernization had at least, not at the most, at least 5 genders, and room for all of these different kinds of people to exist. And then you have westernization come in and be like, no. And so you're stripping these people of this identity and marginalizing and discriminating against people that have always existed, and then being like, your existence is wrong and it offends me and you should feel ashamed. And it's like, how can, and like, without getting all into religious philosophy and stuff like that, it's like, how can you have that and then still tell people that God is love and to love themselves, and then say at the same time, hate yourself because you're this way?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand that. We're going to redirect because like we're supposed to be talking about anime, but like you can sit in that like on our own, like when we have our little separate chats like me and you have had. But like, that's why I kind of like anime, because it allows people to see like in a like nonchalant way that everybody exists, because like there's so many trans, androgynous, gender fluid characters in anime, and it kind of just pops in there, and it's just like, like Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter, and he's like super fierce, and not fierce like as in RuPaul's Drag Race fierce, but like a very seriously scary assassination character. And it's like, but at the same time, there's a little bit of something in there. And I hope it's not that he's a pedophile, because he's like, he wants this kid to grow up, like become an assassin so he can kill him himself. But then that also exists in anime. So that'll be another episode.
I mean, there's, with anime, I mean, it's not free of its sins either. I mean, there's a lot of cultural insensitivity. I mean, Mr. Popo is basically a minstrel cartoon.
Yeah, he's definitely, even more so, like, specifically not even minstrel, he's a Sambo character, and that is problematic. And I'll send you, there's like a YouTube video. There's actually there's a Instagram you should follow. It's called Black Animated Melanin. There's so many that I follow, but this one, they're basically posting like people of color in different cartoons through the years. And so like this week, she's been posting a lot of old Warner Brothers, Bugs Bunny and Tom and Jerry. So that's like Acme Studios, these cartoons that they had that I've seen as a child too. And I was like, and you chuck it up to, oh, that's old. But at the same time, you have to think about how they use their platform to create that culture of people having stereotypes and stuff like that. Like, film is so important, and as a medium of influence.
Yeah.
Any way that people are seeing film, like whether it's animation or TV or movies, you're influencing people's thought process through that story, through you're making people infer certain things. And so they used it in a lot of ways to spread racialized propaganda.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
So this is like how I've kind of theorized how that stuff got to, like, anime's gotten far better as far as like its modern portrayals of people, and still has some ways to go, but like Japan for a long time had that isolationist period.
Yeah.
And the only thing they knew about these other people, what was in the media. So if they see minstrel cartoons, they see those Sambo characters, they're like, oh, this is how to draw a black person. Yes. I want a black person in my in my work. I've never seen a black person in my life because I live in a village in Japan. This is how to draw it. And so for years, this stuff gets pushed out because of what the West pushed out.
Exactly. And I know that to be a fact. I know that because I know history, and I know even from experience when I went and lived in Italy. And like, I talk about this all the time. Like, a lot of people, when I first went to Italy, they were like, oh, aren't Italians racist? And I was like, I had a good experience where I lived. I lived in a village that was close to a NATO base. And when I first got there, I got there probably late March, early April. So not during spring break time. And so it was just like, I very much had a great experience. The people were just like, oh, wow, look at this little Black girl going here. How cute. Like, it was literally like a little anime, like a little basket and a little bicycle. And they're like, oh, how cute and precious. And people would start out of curiosity to come up to me and talk. And I taught myself Italian. And so that even endeared me to my little village as well, because they're seeing me go all these places. There's probably maybe 4 other Black people in that village. Like, so it's like the fact that I took the initiative to learn Italian, they're speaking to me and coming and explaining things to me. And then when we were becoming more cordial, they're like, oh, where are you from? Like, how'd you get here? And I'm like, oh, I came here, I'm American. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no, you're from Brazil. And I'm like, no, I'm American. No, you're British, you're English. I'm like, no, I'm
anything but that.
Exactly. And that was really the thing. It was very hard, like, for them, because they were like, you're joking, you're kidding, like, because of what they had seen of Americans and American TV. And when I saw that as a young Black person and thinking about it, I was like, oh, fuck, like, is this what we project to the world of Black people? These gangsters, gun movies, like, like, all of this is all they know. And so it's projecting racism to people in these small towns, like you said, homogenous societies. Italy now is a little bit more diverse, but initially that country was very homogenous for a very long time. Now they have an influx of like people from Brazil, people from Philippines, India, exactly, that come there for work and are merchants and sales and doctors and stuff. But there's that perspective of Black people that has been mass marketed all over the world. And so when I talk to other Black people, I'm like, this is a whole marketing campaign of anti-Blackness that has been spread, like, as America spreads to other countries, and what comes with, ooh, America cool, also comes with Black people bad. Yeah. It's like, America, yay, Black people, boo. Like, it's literally in the package when you open it and say, oh, Americanism, anti-Black.
Yeah. I mean, that's why there is somewhat of that allure, I think, that comes from, I mean, I can only speak as like as a brown man, but I've heard this from other people who are from that are Black as well, that why we gravitated towards like anime in particular was because other cartoons in the United States, if it's animals for the most part, it's like, yeah, okay, I can kind of, identify with this character, but these stories really often, American cartoons don't really go anywhere. They kind of just, they're self-contained. And then with this like live action stuff, it's like, well, none of these guys are Black. None of them are brown anyway. So sure, I can identify with aspects of that character because maybe my personality links up. But the thing about like this anime thing, it's like, this is not a white person. It's not really an Asian person. This doesn't look like really anybody. Nobody has eyes this big, purple hair, and, crazy tits. You know what I mean? Like all these crazy, like, features. It's all very exaggerated. So it's like, well, now I can identify with this more than what's over here. Yes. Because the story is kind of telling me what's up. Like RZA has this great, from Wu-Tang Clan, this great analogy he made with the Saiyans to like the plight of like the African American. It's an imperfect analogy.
I believe the Saiyans are Black. Yeah. Like, regardless. Like
it's an imperfect analogy, but it still does speak to that, like overcoming your oppressor and like, all that kind of stuff. It's so cool.
Exactly. And I think that's why so many Black people identify with Dragon Ball Z, or like you said, that's so perfect and spot on. It's like you can see yourself there in this fantasy world because of these arcs that these fictional characters go through that are very, very similar to your socialization as a person of color. Yeah. Yeah. So then it's just kind of how now that we're in this time frame that we're in, and I was just talking with our producer, the producer of the Anime While Black podcast, about this is a great time for people of color as creators like you and I are, that we can actually create ourselves in the way that we want to be seen in television and film and whatever, because we have more of a voice, we have more power, we have more access. I'm watching the series on Netflix right now called Hollywood. Man, it is like, it's good. It's interesting. You have to get past, there's a lot of fucking in the first episode. But it's relevant to the story and the dynamic of how they control people's access to stardom in Hollywood and manipulate people who have these dreams and passions and try to manipulate them. Like, what am I going to get out of you? Mm-hmm. But even to the point of one of the protagonists, he's a gay Black male, and he wrote a script about I guess like a white woman. It was an event in this universe where this white woman jumped off the Hollywood sign and killed herself because she didn't make it. And it's also set in the, not the 20s, probably the 30s or 40s, this series, and or maybe even the 50s. I gotta get my iconography right, because like I was watching it, I was tired, and I was like, I love the wardrobe. It's got to be the 40s or 50s. But anyway, so moving forward, it's like he wrote the script, he just sent it in. The studio bought it from him. They sent $100 to him, and he's like, okay, cool. But when it comes down to the director who's going to make it, he is white passing Asian. And so he's really, he went in and he wanted to make this particular film called something Mystery Swan or something like that. And there's this like tragic Asian female character that he wants to play. She was a famous actress. And he's like, when I become a director, I'm going to make this film. She has to be the star in it. She's tragic because now she's suffering from alcoholism because of what Hollywood has done to her and being relegated to these stereotypical roles. And so it cuts to a scene where her makeup was done over exaggerated, and so she's wiping it off, and she's like, you don't have to make me look more Asian, I am Asian. And she's like upset about it. And I know from even like witnessing in production where with Black people it's like an over exaggeration where they say when they make them redo a take, and it's like, well, can you do it more Black? And I'm like, hello, it doesn't get any more Black than this. Like, yeah. So the monoliths that Hollywood forces people, minorities, people of color into, you see it very much. And you see this founding of the golden age of Hollywood, and see, you know, through the Black guy who wrote the script, and then the half Asian guy reaching out to him who's passing, he's like, I want to do your script. And the guy's like, okay, are you going to tell him I'm Black? Because I don't think it's going to get far. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be cool. It's fine. And he's like, you know, I feel like we can, you know, do this because we're people of color. And he's like, and like, there's this whole, but it's a very good dynamic. It gets to a point, spoiler alert, where they're sitting in the studio, everything's they got greenlit for the project. And the guy, the character who's half Asian, he's also dating a Black girl who's a contracted actress at this studio, but she's always relegated to playing the kind of mammy and maid roles, but she's an amazing actress. And he's like, why don't we rewrite the script a little bit? And instead of making it be about the actual event, about a parody, not a comical parody, but kind of lateral kind of retelling, but with this Black actress, and we talk about Hollywood and whatever. And so the Black guy's like, you're going to have both of us. He was like, me, a Black writer, her as a Black lead. He's like, it's not going to happen. They're not going to let you. And he's like, yeah, we're going to push the envelope. He's like, all right, cool. The owner, the studio head, happens to walk by and see, of course, these people of color in his office as he's leaving to go cheat on his wife, coincidentally. And he's like, the fuck is going on? Like, what are all these coloreds doing in here? And so he goes and makes a big fit. And magically, this script that was greenlit and was going to go forward is no longer happening because he saw too many people of color in the room. And when you think about how poignant that is, that was happening, like, and they go through this show, I think you'll like it and find it entertaining. They literally are exposing that, like, there were so many opportunities that were not present because they're like, we cannot allow people of color in this space unless they're doing this. We cannot let them be a lead. We can't. And it's like, seriously? So when people ask or want to know, like, why, you know, are people upset about access and films and stuff like that? It's like, because there was a conscious plan set up to keep people from succeeding, for having access, from having lead
Yeah.
roles, which you know too, like with the acting, like
I'm living that shit right now. I'm telling you, I can pull up my freaking castings right now where I, as a working actor, look for jobs. I kid you not. It's like lead, Caucasian, male, 21 to 35, female lead, white, Caucasian, 21 to 35. And it's like, I can't even get in the room to audition for this. Okay. I could have done, and I read the rest of the character. It's like a young, happy-go-lucky guy who just lost his job and is now trying to get his life back together. It's like, yeah, I could play that.
Yeah.
But your stupid ass has not seen anybody who's not white play this role.
Yeah.
And so I can't even get in the room to have my shot. It's not about, I'm not one of these guys who's like saying, you know, it's not even about like taking roles away from white people, from white characters and already established universes. That's fine. If you want Bruce Wayne to just be a white guy forever and always, fuck it, whatever. But for this other stuff that doesn't even have an established thing, why does it matter if I'm white, black, brown, Asian, whatever the fuck? It's just at least let me get in the room and tell me that I'm not good enough because the other guy was better, not because he was whiter. That is completely stupid to me.
Yeah.
So,
that's the crazy thing too, because even delving into when I started researching the voice actors for anime, and I saw it was like strikingly white, and I was like, this is so disappointing. Like,
that's why dubs suck.
I'm like, it's so disappointing because like voice acting can almost be anybody, and no shade to Cree Summer, but Cree Summer is every black character ever.
Really?
Ever. She's what's her name from what is the little cartoon with Chucky and Tommy and Rugrats?
Yeah, she is.
She's the black girl in Jimmy Neutron. She's every black animated character. Everyone, like, go look at her discography.
I just did. Holy fuck.
Yeah, she's and like, no shade. I'm happy. I love Cree on A Different World, which was the show, the spinoff from The Cosby Show. I love her. She has a great voice, but it's the same voice. She's number 5 on Kids Next Door. She's every black girl. And so it's like, when you think about that, it's like, I'm glad, more power to her. You're amazing. You're great. But are you the only fucking one? Like, are you like, not her personally, but the industry, like Key and Peele make fun of this in one of their sketches. Like, they're like, there can only be one magical Negro. Like, literally, she's the only one. Like, can you imagine how many countless Hollywood actors and actresses that are of color did not get these roles because Cree is going to get it every single role throughout time.
Yeah.
That's scary. Because like you said, it goes back to what you said. It's like, can I even get in the room? Like, can other people get there? And that's what I feel black people and other people of color are saying. It's like, fuck, like, can I show you that I suck? At least you don't know if I suck or not. Like, let me get there, please. Like, and so it's come to a point where it's just like, now, like, I feel like seeing like Issa Rae and all these other creators, what's his name? Is Kumail? I don't want to butcher his name.
Nanjiani.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I love him. I love him on Adventure Time. Did you know, like, he's
a voice on there?
Yes, and I'm surprised you didn't recognize it. I recognize his voices on everything. He's on Adventure Time. You know how there's I can't remember what the name of the character is, but he's like the little being when they go into that little universe box. So there's Owl, and he's like this little flat character into the wall that knows all, sees all. That's him. And it's just like, like, let people be in other spaces and do things like without, like, with context. Like, when there's things that's racially related, spread the work out. And when there's things that are not even racially related, like, let other people be in the fucking room. And hang on one quick second.
I just found him.
Yeah. It's like, even with like he did a project with Issa Rae on Netflix, the little comedy.
That was a great movie.
Yes. Did you like that?
I loved it. And you know what?
It too.
It goes back to the idea that we had about that show that I really want to be in. And it's like, we could do this, but better.
Yes. And it was like, I really loved it because I loved, again, like just
I just like seeing a brown man dating a black girl. That's just...
There's that. But I mean, I like that, like, because the two people that they say cannot carry a fucking movie,
carried the fuck
black
out
women,
of it.
Asian men, boom. And the movie was fucking spectacular. It was funny at all the right funny points. The characters were endearing, where you connect with them, you like them, you're watching. Like, I was literally on the edge of my seat the whole time. I wanted to see the characters win. They were round characters. They weren't flat where it's just like one note. But that's because they wrote it together. Did you know that? Like, Issa and Kumail wrote it together.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
They wrote it together. And I'm like, yes, that's why I really stan Netflix. I know a lot of people are like, Netflix can be problematic. I'm like, I stan Netflix because
they're giving chances to people that normally wouldn't get them.
Yes, literally. They look for letting those type of people into the room. The one... like, even there's like Cannon Busters, which I haven't finished because I watched so many fucking anime. Kids.
They're doing the same thing with anime too. Netflix is greenlighting a lot of animes from studios that would have not be getting a second season.
Yes. Yeah. So with Cannon Busters, the creator of Cannon Busters is a black guy, and he actually works with Netflix Japan, and he created... I want to say he worked on Static Shock and some other cartoons and animations like Spawn, like the animated series and stuff like that. Oh,
nice.
So Cannon Busters has pretty much an all-black animated cast, and it's a really good series. So it started off pretty good. Hang on. Shut up! I'm going to edit that out. You get to see the mom voice. Like, I hear them and I'm just like,
stop talking so loud.
So anyway, but yeah, Cannon Busters is really cool. And back to Netflix, it's like, it's really awesome that they're allowing space for creators of color to like create without being inhibited by like, there can only be one. Because like, if you look at everything that Netflix has, it's like it's an attempt at diversity. It's super diverse, and it's not perfect, but there's space for it. And
at least it exists.
Yeah, and that it exists because they give contracts to creators of color to get like, be like, here, they're throwing money everywhere, and everybody's like, Netflix is not going to last for long, but
I think they will. Yeah, they've already lasted this long. You know, the thing about it is like, you can criticize a platform for all of its faults, but if we look to the other ones, it's like, okay, like sure, maybe everything they're doing is not perfect, but where else in not just streaming services, but where else in the world of entertainment are you going to find shows about trans people, shows about gay people, shows about lesbian culture, about, you know, Asian culture, actual foreign language stuff? You know, greenlighting anime stuff from other, you know, countries, black stories, brown stuff. Like, it's the gamut of creators that Hollywood and mainstream studios said no to.
Yeah.
And they're like, here you go. We'll let you into the living room of everybody in the United States, basically, and the world, really. So I'm not about here to try to cancel them, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Anything, I want to be on a Netflix show.
Right? Same. Yeah. I definitely, the other project I'm working on, I'm going to be creating an animated series. And I think I messaged you about that because I would love to have you do some voice acting for that too. But like, yeah, and I would love to see it on Netflix. Like, I would love to see it on Netflix. Love.
I just entered the foray for like voice acting. I had put my reel together 2 days ago because you had told me about, you know, applying to more acting from home kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I've already like booked a couple of things. I'm hoping to do more of that as well. That'd be cool. I
Oh,
don't have a Morgan Freeman voice, but I have something.
he has a voice double.
What's that?
A voice double.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, and they live here in Houston. So when Morgan Freeman isn't available to record, this guy goes and records. I've been to the studio. He goes and records. So sometimes when we're hearing Morgan Freeman, it might not be Morgan Freeman. We might have to edit this out. Like, I don't think people are supposed to know that. But yeah, he has a voice.
I think you should leave it in. People should know.
Yes. Yes, we should. Okay, I'll see. My producer will decide. But like Morgan
That's
Freeman,
awesome.
voice double. He sounds just like Morgan Freeman. And I just want to know how that check works out. It's like, how does that work? Do I get like, is it 50-50? It probably would be like 80-20. Like the voice double gets 20 and Morgan gets the big bulk because it's like, you exist because I sound like this.
Right. Yeah. They hired me, but because I wasn't available, you got something.
Yeah.
But if you didn't sound like me, this would not be your check. I guess. I don't know. I mean, it is interesting in the world of like voice acting. Like we were just talking about how anime voice actors tend to be white in the United States. And I hate to say it, but like almost every fucking dub I've seen of an anime is trash.
It
like,
is. It's so disappointing.
And it's just like we live in 2020. You don't have to cater to a Toonami Cartoon Network Child Y7 block anymore.
Yeah.
Do it. And who the fuck is this casting agent picking the worst, most unconvincing actor to play these roles? Are you kidding me?
Live here in Texas too.
And they're all in Texas, in Dallas specifically.
In Dallas, yeah. I'm like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is in the water in Dallas where all these fucking actors suck?
Yes, and it's like, it's the anime for me, sis.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I love original dubs, and it's kind of funny that they're so bad in America because Disney Pixar does a great job of casting their voices.
Yeah.
Look at the voice cast of Avatar from Nickelodeon. Amazing voice actors.
Yeah, yeah.
Cartoon Network stuff finds great talented people to do their American programming. But when it comes to anime, it's the bottom of the barrel, probably Fiverr voice actor quality.
Yes, Fiverr. They all sound, and you can look them up and it's like, oh, this was voiced by so-and-so and so-and-so and so. And it's like, I don't like that character's English voice versus like, case in point, Samurai Champloo. I really, really like Jin's voice in Japanese. But then when you hear it in English, I'm like, ew, like that is just the most, like nails on chalkboards. Like, and it's just like, what made you think that this person, like even their intonations, like when you go from a deep voice Japanese character to like this squeaky, and I'm like, it even becomes comical. It takes a serious character and it makes them so less. It's just like, now the dynamic of the character is not even the same. You can't enjoy the anime the same way.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't understand why they keep picking like, do you think there is a difference in a black person's voice and a white person's voice? Because I often do hear it, depending on who the actors are. Like somebody like, who's like a David Attenborough narrates a lot of stuff. He's a white guy. And then you take someone like James Earl Jones, I can hear their difference.
Yes.
You know? And I'm just like thinking like whoever's in charge of casting, when you're choosing to cast like a darker character or like a more menacing or even more commanding voice, why the fuck did you pick some ballless ginger to voice this character when you have like a world of great talented voice actors in 2020 on YouTube showcasing you how good they are? Like this is beyond me.
And it's like, I feel like it's about, I don't know what it is. It may be back to like that whole Hollywood thing, like just
gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping is like the worst thing ever because it's like, no, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just going to make room for more mediocre people and my friends. Like, it would be different if you're gatekeeping for people who are literally better. It's like, okay, well, it makes sense. Like, these people are the best at that. But clearly, time has shown that no one is the best at anything. It's about what's appropriate or what dynamic is better. And it's like, yeah, I don't think that necessarily all Black animated characters have to be voiced by a Black person. However, there, like you said, there is definitely a vocal difference. And especially like you said, like the James Earl Joneses, the Morgan Freemans, the Allstate guy. And so like when you look at some of these anime characters, you're like, okay, this is an old Black dude. He's big. He's this. He should have this person's voice. You know, like this works. Or even if he has like a Terry Crews voice, or like, you know, what? Like for me, even Tiger Woods. Like hearing Tiger Woods' voice is like, no, it's not like what you expect as a Black guy's voice. But there's room for that. Not everyone sounds the same, but it's like
there's a spectrum.
There's a spectrum. Allow that, because people think Black people are a monolith, and it's like everyone has to sound like this or this. And it's like, it's so funny when people hear my telephone voice and then meet me in person, and it's like, hi, that was me on the phone, and it's like, oh.
Well, I had that culture shock too, because so when I've kind of grown up in a few different countries, but like when I lived in Houston in like elementary and middle school, I grew up in like this neighborhood that was primarily Black. It was Northside Spring, but majority of my classmates are Black. And not everybody talked exactly the same, but there was certain slang that was used. There were certain like cadences and like accents that I heard there. Then when I moved to San Francisco Bay Area, completely different. And my racist ass was thinking, how come everybody here sounds white? Like, why does...
It's a regional thing too, because like, for me, when I meet other Southerners, especially like when I was in the military, like people didn't know I was a Southerner or from Houston. Like now that I've moved back to Houston, I have a whole new accent, but I had a very international, I guess, type of voice where people couldn't place if I was from California, New York, Texas, whatever. I just had a very like middle of the road, probably television type sounding voice in the way that I spoke and like intonations, versus when I'm with my family and when I'm talking. And it's not even about code switching at that point. It's like it's like a different language. It's like I'll speak home language with like family members, and then there's like my outside voice, like for work or for other things. And it's definitely switching languages in a sense of what's appropriate, because like I don't speak in AAV with my family because my mom made me speak correct English. So it was like, you will enunciate all of your words and speak blah, blah, blah.
What is AAV?
Oh, African American Vernacular English. So like that's where you can find all the slang and the just more casual way that Black people speak, and like, you know, leaving the endings off of certain things and like a little bit of twang. And like AAVE changes region to region. Like Black people from Texas don't sound like Black people from New York. Like
or Black people from Oakland.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's different. Like I feel like for me, it's funny to hear people from Cali, like especially Oakland, talk. Like it's just like they're funny.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, yo, why does everyone here sound white? Like what the And that challenged me, because then people within my own kind of like brown community, whether it's Arabs, Afghans, or, you know, Indians and Pakistanis, were like, yo, why do you sound white? And I'm like, I'm just speaking English the way I was taught to.
Yes.
I don't know what happened in your house to where you thought you can now speak like a Black person, or what you think a Black person sounds like. Remember, we talked a little bit about Black accent.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of Desi guys or like Arab dudes who are like, they saw Drake and they're like, this is my blueprint for existence. Like,
that's funny because there's a Desi character on Grownish, the guy, and he's literally like the Indian Drake, and like the Black man, he sells drugs, all this other stuff, and they're just like, you know, I don't watch all the series like dedicated. I've seen some episodes, and I was like, this is definitely a caricature of, you know, that kind of thing. And
that guy,
yeah, he's that guy. But I've seen it too here just now. Like, I'm watching kids grow up, and even in this community that I live in the suburbs, and I'm like hearing these kids, and it's like, it's kind of funny and it's kind of weird, because it's like they keep trying to push that, no, this is just the way I talk. And it's like, no, you're really forcing this black accent. You're forcing this type of vernacular. It doesn't even sound authentic to me as a native speaker. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah.
If you were to hear me trying to speak, you know, like Urdu or Hindi or Pashtun or anything, you'd be like, okay, but like, you would know if I'm trying to push the nativeness too much to
right.
be more like comfortable. Like, you can hear that authenticity. Like,
yeah.
people know regional dialects, and AAVE is definitely a particular dialect used by a particular group of people. And when you hear people outside of it, when it's not their native tongue, it's just like, you know, like you said, like the black accent, like when you were in your song, you know, it's like, don't talk to me like that. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like,
right.
and what's funny too is, like, as a black person, non-black people of color try to use it to be kind of more familiar, or as a form of camaraderie. And it's
with
just
you,
like,
right? When they're talking to you. Yeah.
And
okay.
it's like, it would be like, you know, like, why are you coming up to me speaking in this language when I'm not speaking that way to you? You know what I mean? Like if I were to approach a Spanish speaker speaking Spanish and they're answering me in English, that lets me know, hey, I don't want to talk in Spanish to you. Like, let's talk in English. And I'd be like, you know, thank you. I'm so grateful, because my Spanish is awful. So like, I feel like that's what it is. And it's just, but the denial of it is something that really grinds my gears. It's like, you're saying this is how you talk, and it's not. It's not authentic.
Right.
Versus
there are cases. I mean, like I have a friend who's a DJ, and like the part of Houston he grew up in is primarily just like it's like, it's not Third Ward, but it might as well be.
In it. Exactly. Yeah. You can hear the authenticity. Yeah. Like, for example, Paul Wall. Like, he grew up in South Park. You can hear it. Like, if you would have never seen Paul Wall, you would think that that's definitely a black man talking. Like,
right.
You know, it's just like from exposure and that's where you grew up, versus Bad Baby. It's like, I saw this on the internet, and like the structure of it, it's like, you don't even know how to speak this language correctly. Like, or even like Jamaican patois. Like, I learned it from a friend when I was in the military, but I can understand it. I refuse to speak it because I don't speak it authentically, and I'm going to sound stupid. But I can hear it and understand it. And if I want to kind of like play around with it, but at the same time, it's like, it's not for me. And so it's like, almost like it's a force. It's like you're forcing a language on your tongue that is not your native tongue. And now you're just sounding stupid.
Did other black people tell you you are whitewashed for watching anime?
Oh, very much. Growing up,
which is the most bizarre sentence.
How I talked, how I dressed, what I watched. I was telling you how I played Magic the Gathering. I was such a nerd, and it was like, you want to be white, and I was like, I just want to be smart. Why is being smart being associated with being white? And that's something that our people, as people of color, have to understand, is like, I'm adapting. You all brought us here, and we're forced to assimilate. Our parents, you know, in your case, your parents have brought you here, and it's like, this is how I speak to exist in this world that I have to live in. It's not like I am trying to be anything but myself. This is the language. And just because I speak it very well does not mean that I do not want to be Black. Like, it's just, I'm using a tool to my, you know, to my benefit, I guess. Yeah,
no, I get that. I mean, it's just a strange thing to be, especially now that everything's coming out, like, oh, we all liked this stuff all along. Because it's becoming more acceptable. Nerd culture is no longer this like shamed thing where it's like the biggest Hollywood movies are based on Marvel comics.
Yeah. And fantasy. Like, even when you were looking like at Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, all the nerd shit is now the culture. And I'm a little jealous, because I'm like, not fair. I have like my inner nerddom, I had to like suppress it and be like,
paid my dues getting made fun of and all that. And
Yeah.
it's just like, and then like, oh, like look at Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Probably on paper, like the nerdiest shit ever. But
Yeah.
like everybody was watching that shit. Like
Yeah.
some of my friends are fucking like problematic as fuck, would never play a video game, have toxic masculinity issues, are sitting there waiting for the Game of Thrones finale. And like, you know, you saw that. I think anime is going to have that big moment soon, because once it gets watered down and thrown through the Hollywood cycle, then
Yeah.
people will be like, oh yeah, this shit's cool. I've always been a fan. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, but and it's just crazy too. Even like talking about fans and like gatekeeping. Let's like redirect to gatekeeping, and then I'll let you go because I know we've been talking like forever. So we
yeah, I mean, I can talk to you all day.
I
You can
could
talk
too.
to.
Like we probably will have to split this into 2 episodes, like part 1, part 2. But like getting into, you know, like then not only existing in this space where it's like being a nerd is considered whiteness. Then you have, once you get into nerdiness, you have gatekeepers there that are trying to exclude you too. It's like you're not nerdy enough. And it's like, especially when it comes to like anime, it's like, well, what's your favorite show? Do you know all the characters? And it's like, fuck, dude. Like sometimes, like I watch the show all the time and I still forget the fucking names of the characters. Like gatekeeping is definitely
A real thing.
Yeah, a real thing. It's like I was alienated and bullied. Now I get to bully you. And it's like,
Right.
This is supposed to be a safe space for all nerds. So
I've definitely come across that in real life. Like, I think it was about 6 years ago. I hadn't really started getting away from like the anime I grew up with. I kind of just watched the ones that I did. And then around that time, I started getting into like more stuff, maybe not niche, but like different stuff.
yeah.
And so this dude, this white guy who's like super into video games, anime, goes to conventions and all that. He was like, so what's your favorite anime? I was like, well, I really love Dragon Ball Z. He's like, that's a kid show. Like he had this negative thing. And I'm like, well, dude, it's the first one I ever like watched.
It's what I like.
It's what I really liked. And I watch other shit now, but he was continuing to be all like this gatekeeper where he's all like, well, you're not that's not real anime. Like, it's just a kid show. I'm like, dude, the first episode of Dragon Ball, like fucking Goku checks Bulma's panties to see if she has a vagina or not. Like, this is not, like, I don't know.
In its truest sense, like, yeah, the perviness on deck.
Like, that was episode 1. Like, I don't think that would fly in America. Like, they censored the shit out of it. He's like, it's still a kid show. I'm like, all right. I mean, even if it is, like,
it's what I like.
I like Dr. Seuss to this day. I like fucking Bugs Bunny shit, not the racist.
Yeah, of course. No, me too. I like the Bugs Bunny stuff.
I love Looney Tunes. I love, Tim Burton stuff. So like, I like the shit I liked when I was a kid. Just because I'm an adult now doesn't mean I like those things anything less. In fact, if anything, adults are the ones who made those things.
Yeah, they were. And originally, did you know, historically for cartoons, and especially like the Bugs Bunny and Tom and Jerry, those cartoons were not made for kids. Like, there's a documentary where there's like the voice of Bugs Bunny. His name is something LeBlanc, I think.
Mel Blanc. Man of 1,000 voices.
Yes, Mel Blanc. And so he's talking about like how originally they were not made for kids. It was like literally they would insert like the like war propaganda in the middle of a regular movie, and it would be an animated little segment. It was not made for children. It was just made for adult moviegoers, adult film viewers. Right. So for people to be like, oh, it's just for kids, it's like, it never started out for kids, honestly. It was an animated way of communicating for adults. So yeah.
I think I love I just like all those things, and it keeps that childlike, imagination kind of thing alive, especially as creators. Like, we don't go through the same throes as like people who subscribe and buy into like the capitalist lie, like
technical drones.
Yeah, exactly. And not to like create another sense of other or gatekeeping. I'm just saying, like, we do go through our lives differently than people who aren't in the creative arts. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's so lame. Like, obviously adults made this. So it's not like a 10-year-old sat there on this like graphic design tablet drawing this cartoon frame by frame. It's adults make the stuff, so we can enjoy it too.
Exactly. And especially with what we're going through now with all like you said, the Marvel universe or anime and all of these things, the success of it now is based on these are things that we liked as kids. And now it's so successful now because we have the money to invest in it. Like we're the ones going to the movies. It's not like you said, it's not the 10-year-old kids that are going and buying the merch and going to the movies, collecting all the like toys and posters and stuff. They don't have any fucking money. So it's marketed towards us as adults. So
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like why I think Black Panther is so successful was because we were just like, I think anybody who was like a Marvel fan that wasn't white was just like, yo, fucking finally. Like, we are ready. We've been waiting. Thank you. It has arrived. And like you said, we grew up with these comic book characters and now it's like, whoa, they're doing this on like a big scale. I need to see this film.
Yes.
And so it will happen again with the anime stuff.
Nostalgia. That's what it is. It's like, it's the comfort because I remember when they first started coming out with the Transformers movies, for me, that like really sent me back to my like childhood because I grew up watching Transformers and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. You know, like I want to see this. I'm so excited. Like you said, like that finally, like, you know, going through that all over again, it's how they trap us.
Yeah. Well, live action adaptations do something for people who can't overlook the animation. So like my mom is one of those people. She hates cartoons. She doesn't like the 3D CGI imagery stuff. And so she never read comic books, but she'll be first in line with me opening night to see Captain America or like any of this other stuff because it's in a format palatable to people like her.
She's still connecting with the story. It just removes that like that. For us, the people who do like comics and that creative aspect of our mind, we're reading it and watching it and we can imagine and connect, you know, the certain whatever psychological chemicals and stuff like that as people who are creatives, a group of people. But when you take that away, it just makes the story, like you said, more palatable for, you know, people who don't see and think in that way. It's like, there's a different way of telling that story versus for us, we're fluid. It's like, I can see it here and I can see it here and enjoy it in both mediums.
Right. Like, I don't think animation is a genre. Like when people say best animated film or something like that, I'm like, animation is a medium, not a genre.
Yeah.
Because you can tell so many different types of stories. Like as someone who draws and illustrates, I appreciate like line work. When you showed me the logo for this show, I was like, dude, this guy's so fucking good. Like this dude is so good.
Right?
Yeah, it's really, really good. And it works perfectly with your brand. And I just think it sucks that people don't give animation the same chance they do live action because there's I don't know what it is with people and looking at, you know, cartoons. Because you remember Akira?
Yes.
It's technically on like a drawing, like illustrative level, like the fact that it's done the 80s frame by frame. It's such a technically amazing movie.
Yes, especially for the technology that they had back then.
It looks better than Netflix anime now.
Yes.
It's crazy.
It still holds up today. It is so amazing. It's stunning. I want to rewatch it because just frame, like you said, frame for frame and looking at it, they literally drew the cinematography the way you would see it if we had the technology that we have now, if they had it then to create a live action movie. I mean, I feel like if someone were to try to create a live action Akira,
they are
some James Cameron level type cinematography skills. They're going to need they're probably going to have to hire him because and Robert Rodriguez to be able to like take all of that. And I'm like grabbing my mind